Hello Facebook and hello YouTube, and welcome of course to the first ever episode of the Hicks Flicks Solo Podcast. For those of you who may not know who I am of course Sean Hicks, currently 1/3 of the Multiverse Dungeon Podcast, also on Facebook and YouTube. We are well into our third week of filming, and I run that podcast with of course my two close friends, Mike Chollop and Sean Barry. And we feel that we just do not have enough time to cover all the topics everyone wishes to talk about that day. Evidence being our first two episodes being mainly WWE oriented, talking about, of course, the 2017 class of Hall of Fame legends and, of course, the Royal Rumble weekend. Nevertheless, we have elected to fix this problem with 3 mini podcasts which we will be releasing earlier in the week, upcoming to the main podcast at the end of the week. However, these mini podcasts may not be weekly, whereas the main podcast will definitely be weekly. I'm taking the first shift with the solo podcast, and I'm going to use my time today to talk to you guys about a team that I am rather passionate about versus my other co-hosts, which would be the New York Islanders. I'm going to start right into news that we heard earlier this year of January 17, 2017. We said goodbye to veteran head coach Jack Capuano. For those of you who may not know or may not up to date with Islanders information, Capuano signed to be an assistant head coach for the New York Islanders in the 2005-2006 season. He would be assistant head coach up until the season 2010, where he would replace Scott Gordon as interim head coach, and of course head coach the following season. We see an interesting trend with that with Doug White, who is one of Jack Capuano's assistant head coaches starting in 2011-2012, only to overtake him this year, January 17th of 2017. Now, Jack Capuano, while being a long-time Islander coach, has come under some scrutiny as being a figure of controversy amongst Islander fans. Many blame him for not being able to finish out a season as well as the Islanders start a season. There being the Islanders' first half of the season usually goes pretty well, and then they usually fall apart around the time of the All-Star break, either before or after, not being able to keep up the same momentum or drive they've had throughout the first half of the season. I have speculated and laid most of this blame to Jack Capuano not being able to keep his team mentally involved throughout an entire game. When the Islanders start to fall behind, you see that the Islanders start to play flat. That they're just not into it. They're deflated. As soon as they start to go behind. But they fail to keep themselves mentally prepared in the game easily in situations where they can get back into the game or overtake to get back into the lead. While others speculate that firing Capuano may just be a ploy to take attention away from the head office with lousy trade deals and lousy signings, players such as John Tavares also speaking out in support of head coach Jack Capuano. Of course, we must say goodbye to Jack Capuano, as we cannot overturn the history books. We wish him luck in his future hockey endeavors, and we embrace Doug White as our new head coach, at least for the rest of the season. But before and after comparisons, we have the Islanders under Jack Capuano with a 17-17-8 record, which was tied for last in the Eastern Conference. When Doug White took over, we now have a 22-18-10 record, which has now elevated us to rank 7. A very good turnaround. And with 31 games left to play, the Islanders easily find themselves still in the hunt for the playoffs and, of course, Stanley Cup. But even now, as the Islanders finally have a direction to move in and seem to be turning the tide, we have, of course, the Barclays Center there to pull the proverbial rug out from underneath us. As the Barclays Center has declared that they may not elect to keep the Islanders on their current lease. The arena feels, of course, they would make more money doing other concerts and other events, also hosting currently the Brooklyn Nets. They also blame the Islanders for having the third worst attendance record in the NHL this season. However, I disagree. I feel that the move from Nassau Coliseum to the Barclays Center is what's causing the massive decline in Islander fan appearance. Moving from Nassau Coliseum to the Barclays Center has pushed the distance further for most Islanders fans, as there aren't that many fans in the city. The city is mainly New York Rangers fans. So the travel to get to the Islander has delayed most Islander fans from going. I myself had a similar situation happen to me in trying to get to the orange and white scrimmage early last season. My girlfriend and I, we took the car into the city, and traffic was horrible. There was no parking, and of course we just had to travel through some neighborhoods that we normally wouldn't travel through in order to get to the Barclays Center. My girlfriend, of course, was the one to point this out. There was a building on the right-hand side of our vehicle where someone had graffitied on the wall, "Kill all white people." Of course, you can imagine how safe that made me feel to return to the Barclays Center to cheer my team on. But nonetheless, I delay. So we come to the Barclays Center, maybe not re-signing the Islanders. And we have many of other places bidding for the Islanders right now, Connecticut included. As Connecticut Governor Daniel Malloy and Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin have elected to reach out to the Islanders and offer them a place in Hartford. Now, the Hartford has not had a team since 1997, which is home to the New England Whalers. Now, the New England Whalers, or the Hartford Whalers, signed on in the NHL at 1979 and played all the way till 1997. However, in 1994, the team switched owners to Peter Karamanos, who pledged to keep the Whalers in the city of Hartford for at least 4 years when he purchased the team. However, 2 years later, he as well was frustrated with lackluster attendance and little support from his corporate. So he announced that he felt that he had only one option left for the Whalers, and that if they were unable to sell at least 11,000 season tickets for the 1996-97 season, he would likely be forced to move the team. However, and maybe an ownership flaw, they only made available full season ticket packages, 41 games, eliminating the popular 6, 10, and 20 game sales packages. Sales declined and were underwhelming at the beginning of the campaign. And at the end of the 95-96 season, it was still unknown whether or not the Whalers would stay in Connecticut past 1998 or move elsewhere. However, thanks to an aggressive civic campaign and the efforts of many fans, the Whalers announced that they would stay in Connecticut through at least 1997 through the Save the Whale campaign, netted season ticket sales totaling at 8,563 in less than a 45-day span. Despite the Whalers raising ticket prices by an average of 20%, eliminating partial ticket plans, and increasing the deposit amount for season tickets by 750%, this represented an explosion of over 3,500 tickets from the existing base. In 1997, Connecticut Governor John G. Rowland, however, stated that he did not want to spend Connecticut taxpayer dollars to fund a new arena in Hartford, despite the negotiation between the Whalers and Rowland to build a new $147.5 million arena, which seemed to be going well. However, at the last minute, team owner Karamanos wanted an additional $45 million to cover the losses during the 3 years for the new arena to be built, which broke the bank apparently. The Whalers, unofficially able to come into terms, would of course be forced to move the team to Carolina, where they would now be known as the Carolina Hurricanes, who are now today based in Raleigh, North Carolina. The NHL commissioner, however, has said that, speaking from the All-Star game this weekend, said that the Islanders are committed to New York, which is a great plus for New York Islanders fans. However, New York Islanders only have 1 out of 3 locations picked out for right now. They could possibly return to Nassau Coliseum, which to me would be the best bet to get the Islanders fans back into the game. But they also have 2 other locations picked out. As Ed Mangano has said, sources have the Islanders have spoken to the Mets about building an arena next to Citi Field in Flushing next to the New York Mets, as well as another location in Elmont next to the Belmont Racetrack. But whether or not the Islanders are able to build a new location in time for next season, many experts speculate that they may not have time, that it's all but impossible to have a new arena built by the time they would be leaving the Barclays Center, which means that they would have to compromise or organize to find an interim home for the Islanders or work out an extension with the Barclays Center. Hopefully, they can work out a deal and stay on Long Island, if not New York. If the Islanders were unfortunately able to move out of New York and not come to an agreement, I would sadly feel like I would have to trade in my Islanders jersey for maybe a Rangers jersey, maybe, I don't know. But it would just prove to me that the Islanders are no longer committed to its original fan base. So I hope they come back to Nassau Coliseum, but if not, we see that they do have other options here in New York, which I am happy to hear about. As far as Islander news, that's pretty much all I have for right now. Like I said, 31 games left in the season. We see that the Islanders still have a chance to make the playoffs this season. Islander news as of right now, so I'm going to end the episode with that. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, you may contact me, of course, at my Facebook page, my Instagram, or my Twitter, all under the hashtag or @ HicksieDust. That being said, you feel free to turn into my co-host single podcast Mike Charlop and Sean Barry, who will be debuting again later this week. And of course, our main podcast at the end of the week under Multiverse Dungeon, which we will be discussing the Super Bowl and the fallout from the Super Bowl. All right. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for watching.